Well, I think there's a pretty clear recognition by brands that the interruptive model, which has worked so well for advertisers for generations, is somewhat threatened, and that therefore brands need to get closer to content, which means one of two things. Either you have to produce content in the name of the brand that is worthy of the consumer's attention and consumption in its own right, or you have to get it in proximity, messaging in proximity to other content in a way that's kind of somewhat unavoidable. And people are approaching this in different ways. You have the Facebook platform, of course, in which the advertising looks so similar to the content because the ad units are the same as the same materials that consumers produce. In Instagram, where the ad units are the same as the content the consumer produces. That's one kind of native. You have another kind of native, the New York Times and various places like that, where the manner and the style of the New York Times journalism is kind of reprocessed, if you like, for brands. You have content in the style of the work that Hearst has been doing for brands like Cartier, in which real editorial people, and I think it's kind of interesting in the sense that it's the same people that write the magazine have started writing content to which brands can be attached to, and they did an interesting project with Cartier and Romantic Moments in Paris that worked well, particularly in a mobile environment. And it interests me that the kind of stream-based formats that we've all observed, and we observed first in Facebook and more, lately on Twitter, have become ubiquitous, and particularly on mobile, which then, of course, takes you onto the other kind of mega trend, if you like, which is where mobile is going. We now have a scenario where 80 to 90% of Twitter's consumption is on mobile. We have 70% of Facebook's consumption that's on mobile. And almost every publisher is now looking at the tipping point, where they've got it right, of course, where the number of impressions they're delivering on mobile devices is greater than the number of impressions on desktop devices. And so the ubiquity of the smartphone and the notion of kind of creativity and how do you build user engagement within the construct of a 5-inch screen has become the kind of challenge du jour of marketing. And so stream-based marketing and native within that, in a broad sense of native, have become pretty key. I think the other thing that I've noticed is that whilst it's kind of pretty obvious that PC penetration for the most part is dropping, and certainly it's nowhere near the penetration of smartphones now, which in turn means that internet consumption is moving from one to the other. I'm sort of slightly curious about where the tablet market is going. And I think there was a view, maybe, at the very zenith of iPad sales, and the fact that iPad and tablets were the fastest ever growing curve of consumer technology adoption, that I think we're going to see that curve tail off. And my guess is that we'll probably see an end state in which the smartphone to tablet ratio never gets higher than one tablet for every smartphone in the market. And there's this clear binary difference between the thing you carry in your pocket and the thing you use for some other purpose. So from an advertiser's point of view, finding use states that work in smartphone in the pocket environments, use states that work in tablet environments, everyone's concluding the same thing, that it has to look and feel more like content. Sometimes it actually is content worthy of consumption in its own right. And I think the kind of détente, the new kind of agreement between the publisher community and the advertiser community is taking us to a new place. The native thing I think is kind of intriguing. There was a ruling in the last 24 hours by the Advertising Standards Authority in the UK, which determined that Outbrains units in the UK were crossing the line that was acceptable by the Advertising Standards Authority in terms of the separation of advertising and editorial, which then puts the pressure back on, I think, both the advertiser and the publisher to either make content that says so clearly that it's sponsored, yet is so compelling that it's worth reading, even though it's qualified being sponsored, or they have to kind of go somewhere else. Very, very interesting moment. And I think the curiosity is that Facebook and Twitter and others have kind of eaten mobile advertising for the time being. I think we're going to see YouTube as well moving to probably 40% of views through 2014-15 on mobile devices, by which I mean smartphones and not tablets. And so the year of the mobile, which everyone talked about for I don't know how long, has now gone from a situation of being the niche platform for digital advertising to the dominant platform in digital advertising almost apparently without an actual transition. It just happened.